Nowadays, we see companies always talking about biodiversity and things like that, life, animals, plants, like this. The thing is, not everyone knows what biodiversity is. Biodiversity isn't just a scientific term. It's more of a beautiful web, like I call it, an intricate web, I should say too, of life, where it's not about just having different species, it's just about them coexisting too. Hello, I am Ruenpirom. I am a representative of this group, and today I'll tell you all about biodiversity. There's a lot of things that we can talk about biodiversity. I could talk to you about its own aspects, how important it was, or how great, or how is it needed in everyday society? How do we really want to use it for our benefit? But in this video, I'm going to show you the importance of biodiversity.
Alright, so before we get to know how important biodiversity is to all of us, to the environment, to all living beings, first things first, I wanted all of you to know what biodiversity actually means. So, biodiversity is basically a combination of two separate words. One is bio, which means life, and the other is diversity. Diversity basically means variety. So when you combine them together, you get biodiversity, which basically means the variety of life. Now, like I said at the start of this video, it's not just the variety of life. It's also about how other species or other animals coexist and be co-dependent on each other. Now, biodiversity actually has three types of it. It's more of a component than a type. So there's one where it's about species, where there's multiple species in an area, or multiple types of living beings, should you call it. And then there's another one where each specific species has a different type of its own, which basically relates to genetics. And then there's the other one where it's about different types of habitat, different types of living places where they are in, or basically an ecosystem. So there's the genetic one, which we call genetic diversity. There's the species one, where we call species diversity. And then there's the other one where I talked about ecosystems. We call them ecosystem diversity. Ecosystem basically means the interaction between living things and non-living things which surrounds them or the environment. So we could say that types of habitat, different types of habitat that they live in is probably an ecosystem of them where they interact with their own habitat. We could also say that. Now, I wanted to explain further on why does high biodiversity is so important. But first I want to get this out first, that high biodiversity actually creates a more stable environment. Now, how does it create a more stable environment? Well, first things first, let's take off the genetic diversity part. So, more genes. More genes means basically better survival chances for any kind of animal, any kind of living being, with adaptation. Because let's say that a volcano erupts, right? There's different types of one dot. There's a is dog A dog, B dog, C dog, D. So when we walk anyway route, and then maybe 3 dogs died, and then there's 1 dog left, that particular dog is going to continue the bloodline, which means that now there's going to be multiple dogs based on that particular dog, which is going to be different from the first ever dog, which is going to be different from all the other dogs too. So more genetic diversity allows for animals to basically be more diverse in how they adapt to their environment and how can they survive each of them. And then when we get to species diversity, having multiple animals in one environment can lead to maybe better or more stable food chains or food webs. Think of it as a string. A string, the more you pull it, right? The more you pull it, the more tighter it becomes. The tighter it becomes, and this allows it to be pretty much more stable. So the same analogy can be applied to living things. Let's say there's animal A, animal B, and animal C. Animal A requires B to survive. So both of them go back and forth in their population sizes. Maybe B is decreasing more and more, and then when we introduce C, now B depends on C. So now the population of bees are rising up so that you can continue the chain. Like I said, so when you continue the chain, when you make it longer and longer, more species on the chain, more species on the web, it's going to make it more stable over time. And at least then there's the variety of ecosystem where if you have multiple environments where any kind or each living being could possibly be in, it allows for them to have multiple habitats in different corners around the world, not just one particular place, which correlates to them being more diverse in their own species or in their own genetics. So ecosystem diversity actually correlates to both species diversity and genetic diversity too.
Hey! I think this guy's onto something. Well, anyway, let's get back to the topic at hand. So, the thing you've all been waiting for, the importance of biodiversity. So, I will be separating its importance into 3 separate categories. One is for the economical reasons, second is for the ecological reasons, and 3 is for the aesthetic reasons. So, first things first, about the economic reason on why is biodiversity important. Well, the thing is, it's a source of revenue for a lot of people, and it also affects the livelihood of people in some cases too. So, let's say this bag of potato chips. You see, there would be no potato chips if there were no biodiversity. Well, as for why is that the case, well, think about this. The thing is that diverse potato varieties, right, resist different types of diseases, pests, and other things, and environmental disasters, right? It relates to biodiversity in that way, because if there were no different types of potatoes, there were no genetic diversity of these potatoes, then they would never be these kinds of mass-produced potato chips. There would be no of them, because potato chips would just expire, they would be rotten, they would not be able to last this long, and they would not be transformed into these delicious delicacies. That's why genetic varieties and how different places where you place these crops affects them important, because, well, like I said, if there were no biodiversity, there would never be farmers who would be able to produce consistent amounts of potatoes for other companies to create them as potato chips. It's better for health and food security in this way if biodiversity was around. And the other thing is also is because of its own business, because look at this. It's a special type of potato chip where it's transformed and covered in honey. It's a business. People could make money off of this. And the other thing is that since biodiversity allows for different types of genetics, that means that there could be different types of potatoes. There could be potatoes covered in honey. There could be potatoes or other kinds of potatoes or other kinds of things that maybe taste like a potato. And that would also increase revenue. That would bring more income to these companies who could be the main driving force of any type of country. Also, the other thing is for the ecological reasons. And for that case, I would take you to my front yard. So the thing about how it is important ecologically is that, well, it is required for the most important function of any kind of living species or beings, like supply of food, supply of water, supply of air. It is important in that regard because if there were no biodiversity, that means that there would be no different types of trees. Let's say there would be no different types of this tree, there would be no different types of that tree over there, and that means that there would be only one specific type of tree that could go in maybe one specific part of the world, which would mean that the carbon dioxide count would also increase, which would also be bad for us who are living, breathing animals. If there were no genetic diversity, there would be less animals in the ocean or something along the lines of that. Now, it also connects to the other part, which is the aesthetic part.
Well, it basically is on the part of relaxation. Maybe you felt good doing it. Maybe you felt at peace doing things like this. Or maybe you want to go to the beach and you wanted to see multiple types of animals. Well, genetic diversity plays on that part. And the other thing is, maybe you wanted to, have fish as pets. Then you would need specific types of fish who would be able to survive in just normal water, and that would also be species diversity at play too. So all three of them are important in their own ways. One, the economical reasons, like I explained with the potato chips thing. The second one, which is the ecological reasons, like I said, with the trees. And the other thing is about the aesthetic part of it, like I said, with the fishes. So biodiversity is really important in our lives. It's a significant part of our environment that we needed to conserve and we need to help it improve.
And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching this video, and maybe I'll see you next time.